Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs or professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience as small business owners, come out the other side with more skills, more knowledge, more experience that they're willing to share with us so that we can run a more successful business. Thank you very much, first of all, for coming on the show. It means a lot to us to spend your time with me, to spend your time with our audience, and kind of teach us some of the stuff that you know based on your experiences. It's always fresh to us. It's always exciting. So thank you very much for that. Your time means a lot to us. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and your business?
Sure. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to our conversation. My name is Darin Lynch. Hi, everyone. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Irish Titan. I started the company 20 years ago. In short, we are an e-commerce agency. A little bit more detail, that means we build and grow e-commerce channels. To add a little bit more detail to that, what that means is we build the websites for our merchants. That's how we refer to our clients in the e-commerce space. So we build their websites, and then we work with them on their ongoing e-commerce marketing activities to grow their sites. So that's the build and grow, building the sites using platforms like BigCommerce, Shopify, Magento, Shopware, etc. And then we use all the e-commerce marketing tools for the email marketing, paid search, SEO, social sorts of acquisition, conversion, retention opportunities. So that's Irish Titan in a nutshell.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you decide the e-commerce space? And from what I gathered on your LinkedIn, you've been in this space for like
A long time.
27 years or something like that. Yeah. So tell me, like, what got you into this e-commerce stuff, and how did you know that this was a real thing?
Well, like a lot of us, probably there's a little bit of luck, but luck is the son of hard work, I think is a Pat
Hmm.
Riley saying.
Yeah.
And so I was a pretty ambitious technology professional and pretty ambitious entrepreneur at heart. I always knew I was going to start my own company. But my first job out of college was at a massive enterprise that you've heard of, that probably everyone's heard of, Principal Financial Group.
Hmm.
And started to get into the IT space there, got pulled into leadership and management pretty quickly, moved from Des Moines, Iowa to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and ran a consulting company for Lawson Software. They were an ERP. They were founded and headquartered in St. Paul, Minnesota, and then they were acquired by Infor. But one of our clients at
Did our internet just go out? Oh, this is sick.
us to run all of the back end. They used an agency out of New York for the front end. So that was my first exposure to e-commerce in '97. And I thought to myself, there might be something to this e-commerce thing. And so I kept doubling down on e-commerce opportunities. I went from launching Office Max to at Wilson's Leather. I launched their first e-commerce site. Then I went to Second Swing Golf, launched their very first e-commerce site. And then I started Irish Titan. So
Yeah,
that's,
Second Swing Golf. They know a lot about my credit card information. I'll tell you that.
yeah.
So how did you know with all of that experience that it was time to package that all up into one bag and make your own company? What was kind of the catalyst for that? Was it somewhere that where you were in your life or?
Yeah, probably a combination of a number of different vectors, as they say. Um, for one, I knew that I was going to start my own company at some point, so I'd been pretty conscious and intentional about trying to accumulate the sorts of experiences that I felt would help me with that. And so, at Principal Financial Group, I knew when I left there, I'd been very happy there, but I knew I would never work at a company that size again. But I tried to learn the best of a company that size, like organizational design and strategy and leadership and some of those sorts of things. And so I had accumulated experiences. I also got my MBA along the way, which
Nice.
was really valuable for me. I'm not a blind advocate for continuing education because I think that sometimes people get their MBA or get their graduate degree and don't really leverage it the right way or get it for, or else they get it for the wrong reasons. So I'm not blindly advocating for it, but it was a really good experience for me. So I accumulated those experiences along the way. I had my MBA, and at Second Swing Golf, um, we filed bankruptcy, which was an incredibly challenging experience. The bank appoints a receiver. The receiver steps in. They kept the CFO to handle the bank account, and they kept me as the CIO to do everything else. The rest of the executives were gone. And after that experience, even though it was really, I did learn a lot. Um, After that experience, I felt like I'm going to jump off the cliff now. I've learned what I can, make the net on my way down because I'm not going to have my success dependent on others anymore after having gone through that bankruptcy. And I had no hard feelings toward anybody there, but I just felt like I want to bear the challenge, the responsibility of being successful or not without sharing that frustration when we endured bankruptcy. And Second Swing, since you're familiar with it, came out the other side great. And actually, the
Yeah, they
original
did.
founder bought them, Simon, and he's great. So Second Swing is a success story, but that was the final straw for me to jump off the cliff and start Irish Titan.
Sure. So what's it look like getting into the merchant world? Because that same world for me, right? Everything being in the payment space, navigating small businesses, large business. Everyone has different payment needs. Everyone has a different solution. Everyone already has some existing technology, or they're looking to roll out new technology. Like, what was kind of the change for you from going to managing this one specific solution for specific companies to, now I've got to kind of understand this different gamut of technologies that's going on and build relationships with small businesses.
Yeah, it was very different, but it also was well suited for me. You mentioned I've been in the space for a long time. I used to say that I'm a dinosaur by e-commerce standards, having started in '97. But then I realized that's a bad analogy because dinosaurs went extinct.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so now I refer to myself and some of my colleagues that have been around for a long time as grizzled veterans. And I think to be in the space, you have to have a few characteristics. It's not like we're unicorns, but maybe narwhals, things that
Mm,
actually exist but that are
yeah.
rarely seen. Because you have to be someone who is motivated by change, someone who likes variety, and someone who can navigate the ambiguities of where we live. And you know this as well as I do that the work that we do lies at that intersection of three disciplines that are by their nature ambiguous, um, constantly evolving, very fluid, and subject to different interpretation. And those three disciplines are design, technology, and marketing.
Mm,
And the way either one of us or one of our clients or merchants or colleagues might describe something in their mind, it would be perfectly clear. The way we're interpreting it might be slightly different or sometimes way different. And so I think you have to have a lot of those characteristics to A, be attracted to the industry, and then B, navigate it for so many years. I think my microphone might have just changed. Can you hear me okay?
no, yeah, it sounds good. Yeah,
Okay.
it sounds the same.
And so I think that I
Oh,
just,
I might have just lied to you. Now I do hear it. Now I do hear it webcam style.
okay, hold on just a second if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's no worries.
I use my hands a lot. Um, and let's, okay. Is it back to my
Oh yeah.
podcast? Okay. All right. So I think that's one of the reasons it appealed to me. I'd been, and I'll wrap this up because I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I also had some retail experience going into that. When I was running that Lawson Software Consulting company, a lot of our clients were retail. Then I went to Wilson's Leather. Then I went to Second Swing Golf. So I'd accumulated that retail experience with responsibilities for some different systems along the way and different constituencies. So I had an idea about how marketers worked and how the technologists worked and how the owners worked, et cetera. So, a real dog's breakfast of a lot of different characteristics that I think positioned me well and I was well suited for.
Sure. So tell me this, right? Because what I've learned from working with different people in the technology world, whether it is someone that builds websites locally and it is their side gig and they're selling $1,000 landing pages, or it's a software developer that's built a very mature product based off of an MVP. They've acquired funding, right? Like we've kind of been entered into that conversation from a payments perspective at very different places in some of these technology solutions that we work closely with. And one of the things that I've found most valuable is the ability to talk the technology in a way that merchants understand at what exact impact that it's going to have for them, almost being that liaison between the sales world and the technology world to say, I understand what you need, here's how we're going to execute it, and here's how it's going to make it better for you, right? So how do you balance your technical knowledge, right, with the ability to sell and set expectations for merchants accurately?
Yeah, bingo. You are on the nose with, I think, one of the most important characteristics for people in our space to have, and one of the most rare. And I think that the fact that it's so rare, but it's so important, at least in my estimation, is one of the reasons there are so many challenges in our space for people on the customer side of things. And that is that being able to understand the technology, but speak about it from a business perspective.
Right.
And that's actually what led to one of our main phrases: business first, online second. And if you know Simon Sinek, or any of the listeners know Simon Sinek, he wrote a book
Oh yeah,
called
start
Start
with
with
why.
Why.
Oh yeah.
That's our why: business first, online second. We actually trademarked it. And I think that my background made that especially important to me, because when I was on the other side of the table at second, working backwards, second swing, Wilson's, and so, excuse me, selecting and buying services from technology providers, the ones that I felt like delivered the best for us and that we worked with the best were the ones that had that characteristic, that had that attribute, that could recognize the technology but speak about it from a business perspective, and not try to sell me the latest server with the latest chips and the latest greatest processing speed, but instead help me understand how that server could help my business.
Right.
And I think that translated into business first, online second, and it translated into selling to our prospects a little bit differently. It's translated into delivering differently. It's actually part of our interview process when we're hiring Titans. That's how we refer to our employees. It's part of our internal review process for our Titans. It's part of our discovery, elaboration, construction process when we're building stuff. So that business first, online second, I think, is really key, and you're on the nose with how important that is.
Yeah. So tell me this, right? Like from your perspective, what's kind of been that superpower for you guys, right? Like what's been that thing that you guys do well that kind of separates you from the rest of your industry? And on the other side of that coin, going through this whole process, which seems like I'm sure there have been ups and downs and ebbs and flows, but it seems to be going pretty well and pretty consistent. You have a very good understanding of your culture and your brand and your deliverable to your clients. What are obstacles that you run into along the way with, building up this merchant database of people that rely on you to execute your service for the, basically for the performance of their business?
Right. Um, well, in terms of what differentiates us, or what might be our superpower, um, I think that the most tangible answer to that question is our Titan only model. And what we're referring to there is the fact that we do all of our work with just our Titans, our employees. We don't use any contractors, freelancers, or offshore resources. So all of our work is done by our Titans at our Minneapolis headquarters, or our Austin, Texas outpost, as we refer to it. And I think that really distinguishes us, because that enables us, that empowers us to engage with our clients in a much more high touch, um, uh, deep expertise kind of way. And it contributes to a much higher retention rate than a lot of our peers, because our Titans are working shoulder to shoulder, or kilt to kilt, as I like to say, every day. And so they develop a trust and sort of an obligation and commitment to each other. So we have higher retention. That creates a higher quality deliverable, which in turn, combined with everything else I just said, creates and delivers a higher experience, a better experience for our clients. So I think that is one of our key differentiators. It also enables our culture, because you mentioned that we do have a pretty well defined culture. We lean in on that. We use it to self police. We use it to um, be a little bit, hopefully, charmingly so, rough around the edges with the Irish angle. There's a lot of green, as we mentioned. Um, but we might not take ourselves seriously, but we take our craft seriously. So for 20 years, we've been doing what I feel like is good work. And combining that with the brand creates a bit of a different feel for our clients.
Yeah, I think so too. And tell me about the obstacles. Tell me about the uphill battles.
Yeah, I think that the battles are not all that unique compared to the battles anybody's been through in the space. The technology changes and evolves. Um, with our Titan only model, I'll give you a real specific example. Um, we built our first Magento site in 2009.
Mhm.
And um, our Titan only model really dictates that we be committed to the platforms and solutions we're selling and implementing, because I can't sell, for example, a commerce tools deal today, and a Salesforce deal tomorrow, and an IBM or Adobe, or fill in the blank, the day after that. Those are three different tech stacks. You can't do that with employees, with Titans only. You can do it with contractors, but you can't do it with a Titan
Right.
only model. So we went with Magento in 2009. That worked out great. We did a lot of Magento work. We were in very deep with them, a real high caliber partnership. In 2015, or it might have been 16, when Magento did their upgrade to M2, as it was called, which is historically known as being a epic belly flop of an upgrade. That was a giant challenge for us because we were Magento only. And we endured some significant business challenges because of how, because of the lack of diversification that we had. We were dependent on that
Right.
platform. We got in early on the upgrades, and that was a big problem. So with the technology changing, I think you need to have some foresight to plan for mitigating those concerns. One of the things we did, we diversified. We added Shopify in 2016 and BigCommerce in 2017. It might have been 17 and 18, and now we've added Shopware. So we're very well diversified on our platforms, which helps a lot in that regard. The other challenge I'll mention, the other obstacle, is a very common one that I think we'd be remiss not to mention, and that's people, right? They're also the best thing about our business, especially Titan only. We have forged a lot of really deep long-term relationships with both current Titans that have been with us for a long time and a lot of alumni, as we refer to them.
Sure.
And so they're the best thing about the business, but people are complicated, and so no matter how hard you try to hire right, sometimes you might miss, and sometimes you hire right, but a Titan has maybe family issues start to emerge with their parents or their children or themselves, or they go through challenges, or COVID was in the pandemic, and being in Minneapolis, which was ground zero for a lot of the civil unrest and a lot of the riots, that affects people. And so the biggest obstacles have been that technology that I talked to, and then how to navigate and support and challenge and provide a culture of healthy accountability with people.
Yeah. So I chalk a lot of the because we go through the same things, right? And from a technology perspective, sometimes we just go, oh, this gateway or connection or whatever you had to these pieces of technology just don't service that gateway anymore, and you're just out of the loop, right? So like, and they don't really cut off like those grandfathered in type of connections, but if you come to me and say, hey, I need a website, send me to someone that is a very good professional digital marketer. We have the budget for it. We need their services to help us be successful. You can handle the payment processing. Like, that from 2015 to 2020, that solution changed, once every 12 months, once every 8, because a different piece of
Yep.
technology would kind of cut our hand off, right?
Yep.
So I chalk a lot of that up to how people interact with their iPhone, right? Like what people's expectations were of technology changed from 2015 to 2020 so much that people in the payment space, honestly, we rely a lot on antiquated type of software. It's highly functional because the emphasis of our industry is security, right? The
Right.
security is top level bank level security, but you see these interfaces like authorize.net that look like they're 30 years old, you know what I
Right.
mean? So like it's a lot of that is I don't necessarily blame Magento. There was a bunch of very functional stuff when they made the M2 change. The problem was people wanted it to look like an interface that they saw when they looked at their iPhone or when they looked at
Right.
their BlackBerry or some level of organization that documentation just didn't provide. So, yeah, we roll with the punches, right? In the technology world, you have to be able to forecast a little bit of that to the best of your ability and really just make with it what you want because apart from spending $1 million to develop your own piece of technology and then spending 10, 20, 30 grand integrating with whatever pieces of technology open the door for you every time. Like it's a very exhaustive and expensive game to play. So I'm kind of like you as where we kind of react to the technology, but we try to keep as diverse of a solution as possible. 5, 6 different payment gateways with 5 different pieces of technology that work well with those things. So we have a variety of solutions depending on the needs of who we're working with. But if someone in the audience that's listening right now wants to work with you, they have questions about the e-commerce world or maybe taking their e-commerce brand to the next level, how do they find you?
We're pretty easy to find, irishtitan.com, just as it sounds. And there's a company page there with profiles of all of us that take you to our LinkedIn. I'm also a pretty easy guy to find on LinkedIn and try to respond to people. And I think 20 years in, I've built a management team and a bench, if you will, that gives me, I'm still a very involved owner, very passionate, but I also love conversations with other entrepreneurs, other business owners, other leaders in the space. And so I use LinkedIn to try to engage that way, and I'm easy to find there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I appreciate, like I said, you extending your time, extending your knowledge to us in general, to our audience, to myself, because the industry that you're in changes a lot, right? Like anything in the technology world, there's a lot of changes, a lot of stuff to keep up to date. But I'll kind of sum up my thoughts here with if you take care of your customers and you work really hard and you continue to learn about what it is, that you can do to make the service that you provide to whoever your customer may be, you can get a lot done. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it seems like when you made that jump into the entrepreneur world, that you kind of began with the end in mind of what is my culture going to be? How am I going to treat my employees? What is my relationship going to be with my merchants? And how do I maximize all of these things to make this relationship as beneficial as possible for everyone? So, like, from a 30,000 foot view and a very wide assessment of business in general, I think those are very, very important core values to have. So I commend you on the progress that you've made. I know your industry is not easy because I work closely with
Mm-hmm.
some people that have been in the e-commerce world for a long time, and those guys tend to change their script or look for business in a different place because things are changing. And so I commend you for being as consistent as you have for these 27, 28 odd years. It's a cool thing to learn from. So
Well, thank you.
again, your time means a lot to me, and I just want to ask, this is kind of our way that we always end the podcast, is a little bit of an allude to our name, which is burn the ship, right? I think every entrepreneur goes through this moment where they kind of flip this light switch, right? And maybe it's when you get your logo or when you get your first client or whatever that catalyst may be for this feeling. But it's like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur now, I'm a business owner now, and I really need to figure out the things that I do to make this thing work, right? So since burning the ship for yourself and going all in on your business, what's it done for you? Where's it taken you in your life? And why should other people that are listening thinking, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, not be afraid to take that same chance?
Great question. Great way to end the conversation. I think that I'll end with the punchline, but I'll start with the more broad description. I think that I am fortunate enough to get up every day and do what I feel like I'm good at. And that doesn't mean that every day is necessarily a great day or that I finish every day feeling happy, but I get up, I go to sleep and I get up every day with a good, strong sense of purpose because owning a business suits me well. The industry we're in suits me well. And it has given me the opportunity to develop my leadership muscles in an industry that's changing a lot, so I'm not bored, et cetera, right? And so I think if you can find that industry, find that business, whether it's operationally excellent or product leadership or customer intimacy led, I think when you find that purpose, it's pretty special because some people don't care about that, right? Some people just kind of want a job and go home every night, and that's fine. But there are a lot of people that talk about wanting to find a job with purpose and either never find it or or they find it for only a fleeting moment. So the fact that I've felt that purpose for a long time, since around 2011, we'll save that for the next conversation because I can talk about that, is something I don't take for granted.
Right.
Now, the punchline is my personal why. So I talk about business first, online second. That's Irish Titans why, using Simon Sinek speak in our golden circle. My personal why in my personal golden circle is to leave a legacy. And Irish Titan has given me the opportunity for that. Not just as a business that's been around for 20 years, that has a lot of relationships, reputation, et cetera, but it's provided me an opportunity to raise my daughters in a certain way and demonstrate certain things to them and take care of them. And that's going to continue forward. So I think that the intersection of finding that purpose and then knowing your why, and if it's something like to leave a legacy, I think that's a pretty special place.
Yeah, no, I can agree with you. Well, I'm happy about that myself, because I'm 8-ish years into my journey of building relationships with merchants and letting that change my life, right? And it has done the same thing for me. I get to go to my kids' award shows. I get to go eat hot dogs with my daughter at the daycare whenever
Yep.
they have an event. You know what I mean? So it's a really really cool place to find that thing that you're so passionate about that gives you some leeway and some grace in your everyday life. So I commend you for your hard work because I know it has been difficult. I understand this industry, and just to speak on it from the outside looking in for a moment is that there's a lot of gimmicky stuff going on right now in the e-commerce world.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people that want to sell you this $500 playbook to make $1 million online.
Yep.
There are all these people that are trying to kind of coin themselves as these influencers in the e-commerce space, and I think you probably know as well as I that there is no, $500 read this book band-aid solution for learning the e-commerce world, learning the technology, learning the things that you need to do to be successful. There's probably 10 million e-commerce just direct to consumer products brands just in the United States, right? It's a ridiculous amount. They're coming out in droves day by day. So I highly encourage you to reach out to someone that is a professional in the e-commerce world that knows what they're talking about. It's been doing it for a long time. It's really the only way that I can see to be super successful in that space. So if there's anything that I can do for you guys that are listening, if there's anything that I can do for you guys over at Irish Titan, please lean on me, right? I know my lane pretty well, so I hope to be a value of to some of your people or to your organization or to whoever may be listening. So I encourage you guys to burn the ship. I promise, if we can do it, you can do it too. So
Thank you, Brandon. I enjoyed this conversation.
yeah, and I as well. All right, thanks. Burn the ship.